Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajujana Nanjana Yashodanandana Brajujana Nanjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Kodanikai Maya Pushashi Kodanikai Jaya Maya Pushashi Jaya Kodanikai Maya Pushashi Maya Iskam Guru ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shishikar Nitai Maya Pushashi, Shiva Reading Srila Prabhupada Lila. Srila Prabhupada occasionally talked about travelling to a place better for his health. It was May and Bombay was hot. Soon the monsoons would come. He had considered going to Kashmir because the air and water were reputed with suitable accommodations and the weather was cheap. Then one day he received a visit from Srimad Narayan, the former governor of Gujarat. You should take care of your health, said Srimad Narayan. I hope you get better. Oh, this is just an old machine, Prabhupada laughed. The more you cure it, the more it gets worse. But my work never stops. It keeps on going. My main work is to write these books, and that is going on. Several of the Indian guests were present, and they at once began recommending good places for health. Srinagar, Kashmir, Dehradun, Masuri, Simla, Hardwar. Yes, the water in Hardwar is good, said Srimad Narayan. But better than that would be in Rishikesh, where the Ganges flows. Wherever places are on the bank of the Ganges, the water is very good, pure Ganges water. Srila Prabhupada took these remarks seriously and turned to his disciples. Yes, then we can go to Rishikesh. This time it's very good. Let us arrange for that. From that moment, going to Rishikesh became a definite plan, and Prabhupada prepared to leave Bombay within a week. So he does go to Rishikesh and say, there's a really heavy conversation Srila Prabhupada's having with an Indian in Rishikesh. Towards the end. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5. And did you make a phone call? So we're reading Canto 4, Chapter 14, The Forest of Enjoyment, and its text 29, okay. So I'll just run through this one. Kadachin Ishvarasya Bhagavato Vishnu Chakra Kamana Vati Dvi Paramad Dava Pavaga Kalopalakshanat Hari Bhatitena Yasana Ramhasahara Ambramatrina Stam Vadinam Bhutanam Animashato Vishatam Vitrasta Hridayastam Ishvaram Kalachakra Diya Yujam Shaksha Bhagavantam Yogya Purusham Anandrita Makanda Devata Kanka Garita Bhakavata Raya Arya Samaya Parihita Sankatyana Vidate. Kadachit, sometimes. Ishvarasya, of the Supreme Lord. Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu. Chakrat, from the disc. Paramanun Adi, beginning from the time of minute atoms. Viparada, the duration of the life of Brahma. Apavaga, ending. Kala, of time. Upalakshanat, having the symptoms. Hari Varititena, revolving. Vyasa, by the chronological order of ages. Ramhasa, swiftly. Harata, taking away. Hey Brahma, beginning from Lord Brahma. Trina Stamba Adinam, down to the small clumps of grass. Bhutanam, of all living entities. Animeshata, without blinking the eyes, without fail. Mishitam, before the eyes of the living entities, without their being able to stop it. We trust the Hridaya, being afraid in the heart. Tam, him, Eva, certainly. Ishvaram, the Supreme Lord. Kalachakranija Ayudam, whose personal weapon is the disc of time. Shakshat, directly. Bhagavantam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yogya Purusham, accepts all kinds of sacrificial ceremonies. Anadrita, without caring for. Bhakanda Devata, concocted incarnations of God. Man-made gods or demigods. Kanka, buzzards. Gridra, vultures. Baka, herons. Atapraya, like crows. Arya Samaya Parihrita, who are rejected by authorized Vedic scriptures accepted by the Aryans. Sanketena, by concoction or with no basis of authority indicated by scripture. Abhidate, he accepts his worship. Translation. The personal weapon used by Lord Krishna, the disc, is called Hari Chakra, the disc of Hari. This chakra is the wheel of time. It expands from the beginning of the atoms up to the time of Brahma's death, and it controls all activities. It is always revolving and spending the lives of the living entities. This one changes from infancy to childhood to youth and maturity, and this one approaches the end of life. It is impossible to check this wheel of time. This wheel is very exacting because it is the personal weapon of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the conditioned soul, fearing the approach of death, wants to worship someone who can save him from imminent danger. Yet he does not care for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose weapon is this indefatigable time for him. The conditioned soul instead takes shelter of a man-made God, described in unauthorized scriptures. Such gods are like buzzards, vultures, herons, and crows. Vedic scriptures do not refer to them. Imminent death is like the attack of a lion, and neither vultures, buzzards, crows, nor herons can save one from such an attack. One who takes shelter of the unauthorized man-made gods cannot be saved from the clutches of death. Prabhupada Prabhupada ki jai. It is stated, Harim Vinam Ritam Nataranti. No one can save himself from the cruel hands of death without being favored by Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita it is stated, Mam eva ye prapajante mayam vitam tarantite. Whoever fully surrenders unto Krishna can be saved from the cruel hands of material nature. The conditioned soul, however, sometimes wants to take shelter of a demigod, man-made god, pseudo-incarnation, or bogus swami or yogi. All these cheaters claim to follow religious principles, and all this has become very popular in this age of Kali. There are many Pashandis who, without referring to the Shastras, pose themselves as incarnations, and foolish people follow them. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has left behind him Srimad Bhagavatam Bhagavad Gita. Not referring to these authorized scriptures, rascals take shelter of man-made scriptures and try to compete with Lord Krishna. This is the greatest difficulty one encounters when trying to promote spiritual consciousness in human society. The Krishna consciousness movement is trying its best to bring atheists who are cheaters. Is trying its best to bring people back to Krishna consciousness in its pure form. But the Pashandis and atheists who are cheaters are so numerous that sometimes we become perplexed and wonder how to push this movement forward. In any case, we cannot accept the unauthorized ways of so-called incarnations, gods, cheaters and bluffers, who are described here as crows, vultures, buzzards and herons. Omagana Tamaranda Chagana Chakshamilitam Dena Tasmai Shiva Namaha Chaitanya Madhavishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swamipidamada Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhupada Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhaktarinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So interesting, isn't it, that the weapon, time is a weapon, and it's being used by God. Sometimes when Krishna is attacked, he asks for to this window. Running like this. It's like this, it's full steam ahead. His head's. So Krishna is showing there what is going on all the time, actually. But we don't, when a person dies, we don't see his head getting chopped off by the Shilasham chakra. That's actually what's happening. Or when Arjuna was shown the universal form, he says, "Who are you anyway?" When he saw how unlimitedly he says, "Who are you anyway?" And he says, "I am indefeatable, indefatigable at time, and I've come here to destroy everyone. Apart from you and the Pandavas, all I'm saying will be slain." So time is insurmountable. And the way Krishna is showing Arjuna is how he's crushing soldiers' heads. It said actually that the warriors were looking on both sides. When Arjuna was seeing the universal form, he kept paying his obeisances. They couldn't see the universal form, so they just saw Arjuna get down from the chariot, keep paying his obeisances, and they're all waiting to have a war. And Arjuna says, "Can you not show it anymore? This is just so disturbing." So we don't want to see that aspect of God. At the same time, that is the aspect that most people are coming in contact with. They say that the atheist, he sees God in the form of death. And sometimes the atheist tries to cheat death. He makes various arrangements to try and protect himself. The ultimate was Hiranyakashipu. He made all kinds of arrangements to protect himself. But still time came, Krishna came. And time as Krishna is a form of Krishna. Which is very interesting actually, because time itself, if you see it as Krishna, then how you deal with time changes. You become a lot more attentive to time. A person who isn't punctual doesn't have very much regard for time. So you could look at the person's relationship with time as his relationship with Krishna. Just like they say that you can look at a person's health, and the person's health is determined by his relationship with the sun. What time does he rise? What time does he eat? What time does he take rest? If he's not doing things in time with the sun, then it indicates that he doesn't have very much concern over his health. So if we aren't, see, we take first initiation and we chant Hare Krishna, and that's fine. But then after a while you may find that just first initiation and chanting Hare Krishna isn't enough, and you need something else. You feel like you need something else for support. So second initiation is to allow you to go onto the altar, and then you start to engage in deity worship. And with deity worship, you spend half your time looking at the deity and half your time looking at the clock. Suddenly time will be very, very prominent, because everything has to be on time. If it isn't on time, then it's offense. It's unclean, it's offense. So generally people that aren't on time are also not clean, because the deity worship is to bring into the loving goodness. So the dirtier and messier a person is usually an indication of how much more unpunctual and just an inability really to comprehend how the time is passing. We're so distracted by the low modes of nature. We're not really conscious. So before we can become conscious of Krishna, we have to try and become conscious of time. That's the first step. Rise at this time, attend at this time, do this at this time, do that at that time. And you may think, well, that doesn't sound very spiritual. I thought spiritual meant you could just kind of float around and just breeze along. This isn't very spiritual to me. It seems more like being in the army. But if you want to get out of, if you're imprisoned and you want to get out, then the lock has a certain, very, very regulated configuration. And for the key to go, for you to unlock, then the key has to be very exact. So our application of Krishna consciousness is our attempt to put the key inside the lock and free ourselves from the material world. That's why we have 4 regulative principles, not just 4 gross regulative principles, but the 4 regulative principles are also subtle as well. How we follow the regulative principles subtly. There's all kinds of subtle ways you can break the principles. You can think about things that you shouldn't be thinking about and say, well, I'm not actually doing anything. You start breaking the principles. You're just breaking the principles in your mind, that's all. So you follow the regulative principles very strictly. You become situated in holy goodness. You do things on time. You keep clean, and then the lock starts to open. If you don't do these things, then no matter how hard you turn that key, and for how long you turn the key, the lock won't pop open. Because the lock is made of the material energy, and it's configured in a very strict and rigid way. And so you just stay trapped inside. And the lock doesn't just open overnight, actually. First of all, you're thinking, oh, here's the key, I was thinking, oh, it's going to be fine. But the lock may open, or you may feel it starting to open, but then it's a sustained endeavor, actually, until you get to the stage where you're fixed, which is Nishta. And then you could say the lock is kind of just partially starting to open. It takes a while to get to that point. And you may decide, well, I don't think I got the right key. I think I'll try something else instead. So, interesting, isn't it? How it all works, how we're affected. And the devotee was saying somebody had approached him with a problem, and this devotee's been chanting for 30 years. And the devotee who'd been approached with the problem, he says, well, it's not really a problem that a person should have after he's been chanting for 30 years, so because it indicates he's being heavily influenced by the lower modes of nature. So it indicates he's not chanting properly. He's chanting Namaparad, he's not chanting Namavas or Shuddhanam. So one of the first symptoms of a person's chanting properly is that he's very attentive to time. And he's very good at utilizing his time as well. He's very efficient, very organized. That's what happens in the way of goodness. All the gates become illuminated with knowledge. The gates are the orifices of the body, and they all take information in. When the information they take in, according to the consciousness that you're in, determines how you see things. So someone in holy goodness, their gates are illuminated with knowledge, so they see, they hear, they taste, they smell, everything with that extra dimension of knowledge. They're able to appreciate the significance of things that are taking place around them as well. And then when you become more advanced with that ability to appreciate the significance, then you can start tuning into this dialogue that's going on all the time between you and the Lord. Because when you left him in the first place, the Lord came with you in the heart, and he was all the time trying to explain things to you. We're switched off to the dialogue. So when you're chanting naturally, one of the first things that happen is you start, everything has a message behind it, you start to understand the messages. That's why it's called Ananda Bodhivadana Patipadampanam Swadam Sava Usavanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Param Vijayate. So it's the life of all translate Jiva Jivanam. Vijivada Jivanam. Vidya, knowledge, Vadu is wife, and Jivanam is the life. So it's the life of all knowledge actually. all the knowledge becomes illuminated. Whatever you're reading or doing, it all becomes understandable. And Krishna is saying, one who understands, one who understands, one who understands. Do you understand? Do you understand? He's saying, one who understands. I think I do. So Krishna is only understandable if he wants to allow you to understand it in the first place. It's not that you can just go up. They say there's three walls separating us from Krishna, and the first wall is bodily alignment. So the first wall you come up to, you can open the door and you can get bodily alignment. So you're doing your yoga, you're washing your socks every day, everything's on time, and you're a together guy. So you can open the first door. That's great. You're in. Now there's another wall, and the other wall is the mental wall. Okay, what's happening with your mind? What are you thinking about right now? You shouldn't be thinking that. What are you meditating on that for? And you're fantasizing like this. And then you stop all that. No, it's just going to be Krishna. It's just going to... And then you open the next door. And then you go in. But the next wall is the wall of the heart. And you go to open it, and there's no handle. The handle's on the inside. So you knock on the door. Hello? Is anyone there? Krishna? Hare Krishna? Hello? Krishna? But it's up to Krishna when he opens the door. So you can be banging away on that door for years. But it's only when you're begging and Krishna may. And he may just open a little bit and go, who owes you? And maybe get a tiny glimpse. But a tiny glimpse is enough to keep you going all your life. And you need to get the glimpse as quickly as possible. That is the urgency, because if you don't get it, you may give up before you get there, you see. So the pressure's on. How long is it going to take before you get that glimpse? As soon as you get it, then you'll be sold out for the rest of your life. You'll just be hanging on for that next one. But if you don't get it, then you could miss the boat and decide, oh, just like this door's going to open. And it can't open because there are other devotees that are upset. He didn't just open for me, I went inside. I was playing around with Krishna, we had a game of football, and I came back out. There are devotees that you can see that they're like that, I was reading Sankalpa Kamodi last night by Sri Maharaj, and he says, Srimati Radharani was asked by Krishna, please ask for a benediction. And because Radharani is so selfless and never wants anything for herself, she said, please give me the benediction that whoever worships you with a steady heart for many years, that you will personally appear before him. And Krishna says, so be it. And then Shiva Rama says, after that, he says, it is a fact. You will. I was thinking, it sounds like he has. So he's assuring us, you will. Krishna will stand directly in front of you. He's saying that he's promised Radharani, Krishna will not break his promise. Never mind, his promise to Radharani. So a steady heart for many years, and Krishna will just... And Srila Prabhupada said the same thing. He said, if you do this book distribution of this Sankirtan, then one day you'll turn around to approach him and there'll be Lord Chaitanya standing there. Hare Krishna will just, oh, Hare Bol, I guess you don't need the book.
You sign my book, please.
People will be looking at you, you're paying your obeisances, and there'll be nobody there that they can say, this guy's not bad. Hare Krishna's not nuts. He's been doing it for too long. But wouldn't that be amazing? Prabhupada promised it. Just do all. I don't know if it still counts if you take a year and a half out for a pandemic. Because that's about it. Let's take it into the equation. Any questions or comments? Shishi Kodi Tali Mata Shashi, please.
Yeah.
So I just saw a heavy picture the other day. It was a little baby, little child, and you can see he was pretty hungry because the ribs were all shiny. and his arms were so thin that you couldn't see any muscle, it was just skin and bone. The child was groping around in the soil looking for something to eat. And just behind him you could see was a vulture. It was just waiting. And it was saying, when are we going to stop this? So there are inauspicious buzzards, vultures, herons, crows, and that's compared to these bogus people who are feeding off people's ignorance, coming up with unauthorized scriptures and bogus gods. And it won't save them, because if you have a lion coming for you, all the vultures and everyone will just fly off. Oh, I thought you were going to help me. So all these bogus religious systems and all, they have no use when death comes. So that's quite a graphic image, isn't it? It's very powerful, actually, the Bhagavatam. It's nice, Guru Dasa is out now on Sankirtan. He's been stopping people, he's been putting little videos up, and he says to them, could you read a bit for me? And so these people are reading, and they're trying to get their tongue around some of the words as well, and you can see them trying to assimilate what's being spoken, But the book distribution is so powerful, because what else are you going to hear about? Things like this, And Srila Prabhupada says if they just read one word, it could change their lives. There's so many stories of people suddenly just coming. One person was on a cliff and he was about to commit suicide, and a piece of paper blew past him. And for some reason he just wondered what it was. And it was just a corner of the Bhakti Godhead, And he said a few words on it about Krishna. So obviously he didn't commit suicide, that's not how we know the story. But that's how powerful it is. So getting people to read out about the books, even just carrying the book. Prabhupada said even if they carry the book to the bin, they get the benefit of carrying Krishna. That's how auspicious, how significant it is. Such amazing information in here. Any questions or comments?
It's just, it's mentioning like the false gurus, not the false gurus, but it reminds me of the false gurus, like, represented by Putin. And it's also mentioned that means the mind too, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just like
Just conquer it in the moment there's no strength.
One of the things that I've noticed is that when things are on a gross level, it's much easier for people to spark or for others to spark, whereas when it's more subtle, it can be really tricky, because there can be this front that people put on, and if they're not honest with themselves, how can they be honest with anyone else? It's much more difficult to identify and separate knowledge.
The interesting thing about we think about self-realization as, oh great, I can find out that I'm the soul. But before you find out you're the soul, you've got to find out what you are right now, what a mess you're in. And so sometimes self-realization can be a little bit uncomfortable, because the false ego likes to smooth everything down. We're okay, we're doing okay, we're just putting along. We're a devotee, we haven't killed anyone this week, we're okay. Just chant. Just really, chanting, what do you want to do? Use them chanting. So there's JC chanting and there's AC chanting. Just chanting, or actual chanting. Are you actually chanting? Or are you just chanting? Anyway, the first part of self-realization can be a little bit disturbing because it's you seeing yourself for what you are. There's a mirror actually, which shows you what you look like, really look like. And they say that anyone that looks in the mirror goes mad immediately. Makes them go insane. So it can be like that a little bit. You start seeing, and then you're not worrying. The interesting thing about self-realization is it's not you how you're looking at everybody else. It's how you're looking at yourself. That's what self-realization is. What we tend to do is we go to love and go, oh, anyway, look at that. Oh, look at it. I mean, I know I'm bad. So that's what we tend to do. And then we don't practice self-realization, then we practice everybody else realization. So that's their problem, that's between them and Krishna. Maybe Krishna likes that, maybe he finds that funny, that's up to Krishna. But for me, this doesn't look good. And the mirror is dirty actually, the Chaitanya Margin was referred to that the mirror is cleansed, it's wiped, the dust is wiped, and the dust is always forming in the material world. You leave anything for long enough and it'll collect dust. So it's a continual process of wiping, and every day cleansing it again. Every day you can't say to someone, if someone's very smelly, and you say, have you had a shower? You say, yeah, I've had a shower. It doesn't smell like. Well, it was about a year ago, I had a shower. Has to be regular. So when you're cleansing the mirror of the mind, it's a regular thing. You can't just think I had a great day 5 years ago. Fantastic, Rath Yatra. I'm okay. You cleanse and cleanse and cleanse and cleanse, and then when you start to see things very clearly, then you become a help to other people, and you become their well-wishers. Because you feel the relief of self-realization, and you see how others are suffering, and then rather than kind of giving them a hard time or making it more difficult for them, it's like, come on, it's not, you're struggling with this, but look, you just do that, and everything will be okay. Just do this and do that, get clean, get yourself regulated. You'll be great. You'll really enjoy it. I can tell you, it's so happy. It's like when people are trying to get in the water and they're dipping the toe in. And somebody else is already in the water and saying, come in, it's okay. I say, no, I think it's going to kill me if I go in there. I say, no, once you get used to it, it's fine. So that's what the more advanced devotees are saying, just come on, just go for it, just give everything you got, it's fine. It won't be a problem, come on. Surrender, just give everything. Oh, I don't know about that. Can I just sleep in another half an hour? And just have another bowl of halibut, or whatever it is.
Bowl of cabbage.
Another bowl of cabbage. Well, that's going to be the thing, cabbage halibut.
One of the things that I've been sort of meditating on for a while is this thing you're saying about the mirror being coloured.
Because we're geared up towards trying to help people, give them food, give them prasad, give them the holy name, give them the book, engage them in service. But at the same time, although all that is there, the main principle is you have to save yourself, because the whole thing is a waste of time if you don't save yourself. And so you have to concentrate on that. That's why the way our day is designed is we get up at 4, we're ready at 4:30. Now from 4:30 through till 8:30, that's 4 hours. We've got quality time when we're just doing stuff for ourselves. Really, we're singing, we're chanting, we're hearing philosophy. It's all for us. We're not going out to do that to anybody else. We're just working. Every day we get 4 hours to work on ourselves. And if you think that's a lot of time, you go, how much time do people spend really thinking about themselves and what they're doing with themselves? They roll out of bed, throw a cup of coffee down their throat, and then jump in the car with a fag up their mouth. And then they work really late because you get time and a half. And then they come back and it's in bed and then up and fag in the mouth and off they go again. And then maybe at a funeral for 20 minutes they're thinking about Uncle Arthur was a nice guy and they're thinking, that's not about you, we're going to die, we're going to start eating. And then they get drunk and then you don't find them out again the next day after they go to bed. And we're really wanting to stop something, is hold on a second, we get up really, really early, it's really peaceful. Okay, what do we do with our lives here? What are we trying to do? Let's focus on this. Let's get the most out of it, actually. The more you can give to it, the more you get out of it, so why waste time? There's a nice video that says, by Mahaprabhu, he says, don't waste your time chanting. And he says, you're wasting your time chanting if you're not actually chanting. You're wasting your time. So you could be getting the most amazing, most powerful help to really propel you forward in your spiritual life. And you're not doing it, you're not accessing it, so you're wasting your time chanting. It's time that could have been used to really, really do quality chanting. And you've just wasted it, you've just got distracted trying to help a fly out of the temple room or looking at the alpacas butting each other or whatever it is. And then you just wasted your time, you could have been actually getting absorbed in chanting. So don't waste your time chanting. Time is too valuable, especially the time when you get to chant. People are wasting their time anyway, and then when you get the chance to chant, and then you go waste your time and don't chant properly. And it's good if you don't waste your time chanting, and you're using your time nicely. And if you're using your time nicely, then you don't have to be afraid of the Sudarshan chakra, the disc of time, because death will come to you like a cat's mouth for the king. It will be the same as the chakra is coming for the cat's mouth for the rat is a different place, not a very pleasant place to be. Hanging from a cat's mouth if you're a rat. You're hanging from the cat's mouth and you're a kitten, it's fine. Although it doesn't look, you think the kitten would be, when you see a cat picking up a kitten, it looks like that's not very comfortable. But the kitten's completely okay about it. It's mum, you know, that's what mum does. She knows what she's doing. She's not going to bite so hard that the teeth go into my skin. So he's relaxed, he's okay, he knows he's safe. He knows that they're... And another interesting thing to what he was saying is that, because they were asking him, can chanting Hare Krishna solve all mental problems? And he was saying, not per se. He was saying, well, a lot of the trauma that people carry around with them is because they're not aware of how much Krishna loves them. And if you were really aware of how much the cat loved you and how safe you are in the joys of the cat, it would take away a lot, it would heal a lot of the trauma. If we could just really focus on that. And the best time to focus on that is when you're chanting. Okay, maybe we don't love Krishna, but Krishna loves us. And when you become more aware of how much Krishna loves you, because you can be thinking, well, it's not zillions. I mean, can you imagine if you go to a guy who's a zillionaire and you say, here's £1, and he says, £1? Okay, just put it over there. And then he just, well, Krishna's not like that, he's not like a zillionaire, you know, here's his soul. Well, zillions of them up here anyway, you know. When he loves everybody equally, because he's perfect and he's complete. He wouldn't be completely perfect if he didn't. So he loves you just as much as he loves everybody else. So if we were aware of that, then that would heal a lot of trauma. And it's just natural when you realize how much someone loves you, you love them. That's what I love most about you, how much you love me. That's quite often what it's like in relationships. If a person loves you, then you love them for loving you. So when you're aware of how much Krishna loves you, then you automatically feel so much love back for him. Why would you create somebody to not like them? Oh, I've just made this song, it's a bit weird, this one. I mean, I'll try and love it, but it's got a big wall on its nose. And I just don't like it, it's just weird. Everything Krishna makes is beautiful and perfect and complete. He loves everybody because he knows what they are. He knows what they really are. So if we were aware of that Krishna didn't make a mistake with me, he made me because he wants to have a loving relationship with me. And he loves me because he loves the potential that I've got to please him. He sees how much pleasure he could derive from having a relationship with me. And the amazing thing is, although he's got zillions, like if you go to a zillionaire, all the pounds are the same. But the amazing thing about Krishna is every single living entity is different. So no other living entity can please Krishna the same way that you can. That's your personal relationship with Krishna. Everyone has a unique relationship. So everybody feels special and satisfied with who they are, because that's their way of pleasing Krishna. And nobody else can do it, only you. It's like if you read into it, there's 8 Shakis that serve Krishna. And the Ashta-Shakis, Lalita, Vishaka, Kamaruja, Champakalata, Induleka, Sudevi, Chittadevi, and Rangadevi. And when you read about their characters, they all have different things they can do. One of them is really good at making drinks, and another one's really good at doing music, another one's really good at making poetic verses that are kind of witty. They all have their speciality. So that goes for every living entity. There's so much variety, so many different nuances, different shades and flavors and fragrances. We all have our own individual one. So that's how complete and perfect Krishna's creation is. So, yes.
Quick question. So quite often I feel like an overwhelming sense of love for somebody when I'm experiencing compassion, but I'm wondering if they're different, or they're just linked, or because I noticed, particularly since being here, that I feel the strongest feeling of love for people when I see them serving Krishna in a particular way. So I'm kind of wondering if there's a difference.
In the spiritual world, living entities love each other not because of who they are, but because of how much they love Krishna. So when they see how devoted and how much pleasure they're giving Krishna, then they love that. So they don't just go up to them and say, I really love you because I think your trousers are fantastic. Or your dhoti, I really like that dhoti. And I just love your hairstyle. And you're always going to be my pal. Be sure of that. You just feel so cool. But they only like them because they see how much pleasure they're giving to Krishna. When they see Krishna as being very pleased by them, then they immediately go, oh, look how much they love Krishna. Oh, I wish I loved Krishna like that. And so they all love each other like that. And then love is a big word. It means a lot of things. It breaks down into all kinds of different ingredients. Compassion is there. Sacrifice is there. When you really love. They say that love hurts. Love hurts. Love will tear us apart. So the nature of love is that it makes it very intense when we're separated. So it's a source of pleasure, but it's also a source of pain. But the pain is sweet sorrow. So that's the nature of love. It's compared to an ocean, because the ocean is always coming and going. It's always going high tide and going out, ebbing away and coming in. Otherwise, the ocean will be stagnant. So sometimes you're meeting, sometimes you're separating, sometimes. And this is just increasing in love. It's there. But it means a lot of things. Yeah, love means a lot more than we think it means. We're thinking love just means, oh, I really, I love that ice cream. You love that ice cream. You'll throw yourself under a car for that ice cream. Well, no, I really like it. But everything's become cheap now, isn't it? A legend used to be somebody that could pull a sword out of a stone. Now it's somebody that comes back with a packet of crisps. So love's like that as well. It's like a cheap love. Love means to give yourself completely. And the whole thing about love is there's nothing in it for you. That's the nature of real love. So, and that's what we're working on, because it's unlimited and ever increasing. So that's the nature of love.
One of the things that I've witnessed in a lot of people, and I've also experienced myself as well, is that when people have parents, they're parented in a particular way where there's a lot of attachment and it seems quite conditional. They don't feel unconditionally loved, and they kind of grow with this complex that, like when somebody says, I love you, like, I know people that say that to me so much, and it's just like got to a point where I don't hear that anymore, I just hear I'm so attached to you. And it's really difficult to actually there's a lot of people struggling with like mum wound or just challenging relationships in everyday life with lots of people because of the relationships they had with their parents. And people are just like, well, what is love anyway?
It breaks down into six exchanges: giving and receiving gifts, inquiring confidentially and hearing, and revealing your mind, and offering food and receiving food. So, believe it or not, that's what it all boils down to. Somebody can say, I love you, but actions speak louder than words. Does he listen to you? It's like the guy came to the counsellor and said, I don't love my wife anymore. And the counsellor said, well, why don't you love her then? And he said, well, I just told you, that's the whole thing, I don't love her anymore. And the counsellor says, well, why don't you love her? And he said, well, you're going to have to explain this to me. He says, well, love isn't a feeling, love is a verb, love is a doing word. Why don't you listen to her? Why don't you serve her? Why don't you respect her? Why don't you consider her, put her first before you? And then you'll cultivate love by doing that. And the fact is, if we don't love somebody, that's our problem, not theirs, because we've not learned how to love them, we've not learned how to appreciate them. It's not their fault, it's ours. We have to understand I am justified in not loving you because you are the most unlovable thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And for someone to love you, they have to be in that case. So you blame other people for your inability to love them. It's up to you to do that. If you can learn to love everybody and appreciate everybody, that's what Krishna consciousness is. It's not just loving Krishna and everybody else can go to hell. People have this idea, I love God but I hate you. You don't love God then. Because God's not going to be too happy with that. I'm this part and parcel as well, Or I'm going to show how much I love God by how much I hate you. Okay, you've got it wrong there, my friend. Okay, I'll finish. Just going to give the key.
His Grace Adhoksaja Krishna Prabhu ki jai.